Hey YouTube, this is Chris again with another one of Tim and Chris's how-to videos. So in this video I'm going to show you how to take an image like this and we're going to restore it to something like this. So we're going to go from this to this, and then in our next video we're going to add some color in it to make it look a little more like this. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these images here and I'm going to trash them so we can start from scratch. Now here we have our original photo, and we're going to be using basically two tools here. We're going to be using the spot healing brush tool, and we're going to be using the clone stamp tool. Um, these tools are very similar, but there are things that the clone stamp tool will do for us that the spot healing brush won't. So we're going to start with the spot healing brush tool first, and I'm going to show you what I'm talking about here in a second. So the spot healing brush is really good for little spots like this, and basically I'm just clicking over these spots here and it's getting rid of it. Now I'm also going to drag, click, hold, and drag over these spots, get rid of that. But we do run into a problem when we get into this area here. You can see it smudges it and it makes it kind of light. So in this area we're going to need the clone stamp tool. But when I'm doing photo restoration projects, I'll generally start with the spot healing brush tool first, and then I'll move on to the clone stamp tool. So I'm just going to go over all these little spots and areas that are pretty prominent here. All right, come up here just a little bit. Now, when you're restoring a photo, it can take anywhere from 10 minutes, depending on the damage of the photo, up to an hour or better. So I'm just going to kind of do a fast uh, video here. Not fast video, but I'm just going to go over it kind of fast. I won't be as detailed as I would be if I wanted a really good job done here, which we are going to do a good job, but we're just going to go a little faster today. Okay, so now it looks like we pretty much are at the end that we can do with our spot healing brush. And I'll give you an example here. Now we could do that here, but you'll be able to see it'll look kind of smudgy, and it doesn't really fit the background. So in that case, we're going to start using our clone stamp tool, and we're going to do that now. So I'm going to pick my clone stamp tool, and I'm going to resize my brush by using the bracket keys. Now the clone stamp tool is a really cool tool to use. I use this tool very often, and the way we use it is you sample an area on the picture that you want similar to what you're trying to cover up. For example, I want to sample this part up here, and I'm going to start painting down here with it. And the way to do that is you hover over, you have the area that you want to sample, and you click and hold the Alt key on your keyboard. You'll see this little icon up here. You left click one time, and it samples that color. Now you can see the color it's sampled, and it gives you a little preview. So I'm just going to go right over the top of these of this scratch here or tear. Now, one thing you want to keep in mind is you want to sample very often in a lot of different areas. But, you don't want to sample here and then paint over here because it's just not going to look right. So, I like to sample very close to what I'm going to be um, going over. That way, the background or whatever you're working on is very similar. And you'll also be working with the flow a lot when you're doing this. Matter of fact, I'm going to increase my flow up to about 80%. And what that does is it basically means how much you're putting down. So, for example, this will have a heavier coat, if you will, than less flow. So I'm just going to go over these areas and just bear with me here. And like I said, just click different places, and so you can see that icon change quite often as I'm doing this, because I am sampling a lot because I want it to look good. And so I won't just sample on top of it, I'll sample underneath it, get some nice blending modes going on. And I'm going to save this part right here for the last, because this is the most difficult part that we're going to do, because as far as the chin line, we have no information whatsoever. So we're actually going to have to create our own line here to work with. So I'm going to do that part last. I'm just going to get rid of all these scratches and all these scars. And what I'm going to do is just to speed up the video a little bit more, I'm just going to fast forward through here. You're going to see me do it. It's just going to be, you know, a little fast motion here. Just so I can get all these scratches out. I'm going to get these scratches out up here. I'm going to get this out up here. And then you can see the hair. I don't know if this is a bow or the background, but I'm going to kind of take this out, maybe curve it up a little bit so it looks nicer there. I'm going to take this scratch out here. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to speed it up a little bit. And then we'll get to working on this area right here, and then I'll talk you through that as well. All right, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit here. All right, so real quick right here, I just want to show you something. Now you can see there's a lot of shadows and stuff going on in here. So what we need to do is we need to, with our clone stamp tool, I'm going to reduce my brush by using the bracket keys. We need to kind of match this up, this line going through, because if we just use, say, something here, it's going to break that line and it's just not going to look right. So we need to keep that line. So I'm going to sample right in the middle, right where that little target is, right in the middle, and it's going to allow me to bring this line down, continue that line down so we can still have that shadow. And I'm going to do this line here, and then we're going to work on the hair, and the hair is a little tricky too. But like I said, like you see this little line here, I'm going to sample and I'm going to bring that up so we still have that shadow. All right, I'm going to do this line, and then we'll work on the hair. All right, that looks pretty good. So now we're going to work on the hair a little bit. And the hair is a little tricky as well, because we have a lot of different textures and a lot of things going on. So when using the clone, this clone stamp tool, you got to be real careful. And I'll show you an example right here where the hair kind of goes up. Well, let me give you a better example. Right here, you see this thin layer here, and it goes all the way up. So if we just sample here because of the same hair color, and we put it, you know, around here, it's just not going to look right. You can see already, I mean, it just doesn't fit. So we want it to fit. So we want to grab, I'm going to increase my brush size just a little bit. And we're going to grab this area right here. So because we want some of this dark line and also some of the hair. Well, it's all the hair, but we want some of the dark and light together. Click on it. And now you can see the line matches up. We can just bring this line up a little bit, and then we'll go on top and bring that down, and you can see that matches up a lot better. So we're going to be doing a lot of that to the hair. We're going to be matching it up, and you can see there the edge here. I'm matching that up there so I can cover up this tear. And this is really tricky to do. Spend a lot of time on it and you can get it right. So anyways, I'm going to keep going with the hair and then we'll come back and we'll work on the chin and the face here. Okay? All right. Well, it looks pretty good. Um, I did do it kind of quickly, so it's not as good as I would prefer it to be, but for the video, I think it's all right. All right, so now we're going to work on the face here. And now the face, we can see a lot of different textures going on, a lot of different shadows. So this one we have to go slow and carefully. Well, maybe not so slow, but we got to go carefully. And what I like to do is I like to sample right above where we want to correct and just bring it down. And then I'll sample, bring it down, sample, bring it down. That way we're getting all the same colors that should be there. And like here, I'm going to sample from the bottom, bring it up, sample, bring it up. And also you don't want to cut into her lip there because we have a lot of different shadows and colors going on. You got to be real careful around this area. And so I'm just sampling right next to where I want to cover just so I can get the same color type here. And we're going to do this part as well. That way you see now it's getting really dark and we can stick with the same color that's going on so it's not won't look so obvious. And in some cases you'll never even, most cases if you do it correctly, you'll never even know. We have a little bit down here with the lip. Now this area right here is going to be really tricky because we have a little shadow right here and we got to have that consistent throughout. And so we almost, in a sense, have to build a shadow. And I'm just going to make my brush a little smaller because it's such a small area to work with from the sampling. And probably we're going to have to build this shadow up, you know, a little bit more on the bottom of her lip here. And then in this area, we can actually reduce the flow, not looking too bad, of our brush, so we're not putting so much ink down, if you will, so much color, I should say. And then we can just fair it in. We have a little bit up here to do. And again, with this, I'm using a low flow, so that's not so obvious. And it just kind of basically, the more you go over a certain area, the more it'll fill it with that color or that patch or whatever you're doing. Okay, so that looks pretty good on her lips there. Maybe I'll work on a little bit more in just a little bit. Okay, so now the hardest part, and we're almost done. The hardest part is this chin. So we actually have to create a chin line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a new layer. I'm going to go to my brush tool and I'm going to make a hard brush, and I'm going to make the um, the brush pretty small. I'm using my bracket keys. You can see I can increase or decrease my brush. I'm just going to make it pretty small so I can just make a line, and I'm going to use like a red color, I guess, so it can stand out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-draw a line that I think is going to look okay with this image. And we'll take a look back, and I think the chin's a little bit too big. So you're going to do this a couple times till you get it right. Maybe you'll get it right the first time. And this is just going to be a reference, and I think as a reference, that might be all right. We're just going to go with that. Okay, so now we have our reference line there. We're going to go back to our clone stamp tool, and we're going to start from the bottom here. We're just going to go to the bottom and then right on top of it, and then we'll ferret in. So this is going to take a little while to do because we also need all our shadows and everything. Not a while, but it's going to, it'll take a bit to do. But we can do this. And I know this seems it's intimidating, but it's really not that hard. Once you get used to it, I'll bring my flow back up to about 80. It's really not that hard. And it's really fun to do. I love photo restoration. Oh, I was wondering why I wasn't putting anything now. I was on the other layer here. There we go. And again, I'm just going right with the same tones so it doesn't really look all that messed up. I'm going to bring some of these tones back in, just like that, because she has a lot of shadow. There's a lot of shadow here. And that's why you have to be careful. And I'm just going to go over, and you can just make passes like this. You don't have to do like one click and then go up. You really want a nice shadow. Let me back up a little bit here. And it is a bit of a long process, but the end result after you finish and you see what you've done and what you've accomplished, and you see the photo for what it was and the way it was, and then you see it restored. It's so much. It's really worth it. So I'm just going up to this line here, and then we're going to take that line out, and then we're going to draw a line in there. This is just a reference of what we think that how this chin would continue on. Okay, so now I've gotten this part down here, and I'm just going over it with some shadows. I'll put some more in there. And we'll fix all that. So now I'm going to go from the top down because we want the same colors that are there now to be there at the edge of this line. And I'm just sampling, clicking, sampling, clicking, sampling, clicking, sampling, clicking. Now we can see, let's see what it looks like. And it's not going to look that great when I take the line away. We can see that, and now we can step back. And we can see if we need, a little more curve or something like that. And we're going to do that with the shadows here, with the shadow, with the lights and the darks. But for now, we're going to zoom in, and we're going to get this line right here, the color of this line on the side of her face. We're going to zoom in a lot until we see this color here. I'm going to get my color picker tool here. We're going to sample that. All right. Sorry about that if it hurt your eyes, because I know it hurt mine. And then we're going to draw this line with that color. And the flow I'm going to have about maybe 30% here. So now we're just going to draw, follow that line. Maybe we'll bring the flow up just a little bit more. Maybe to 50-ish. And we're just going to, there we go, I can see it now. We're just going to follow that line. And now we're just going to work on the different shadows and things like that, and to make this chin stand out a lot more. Okay, so we're going to go back to our clone stamp tool. And we're just going to start working this in. And again, I'm using the same colors. I'm going to bring some of this dark over here. And we actually, I mean, we're rebuilding this side, this chin line, so it's pretty interesting. And of course, we're trying to make the shadows, and we're grabbing so we can have the same texture here, the same color. And if it doesn't look right, we can actually move it around, move the line around with the lights and our darks. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to back out and we're going to look at it. And we can see that maybe we should bring this up a little bit more, so put some more darks in there. And we're just going to bring this up just a bit here. And we'll take a look. Bring it up a little more here. And now we're just creating this jawline that wasn't even there to begin with the picture, because it was the tear was there. And you know, that's looking pretty good. Maybe there's a little bit here that we got to bring down. And we're just doing this with our lights and our darks, so we're creating this jawline here. And you know what? I think that looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit more. Maybe a little bit more here. And you know, for the video, I think that looks pretty good. We're just going to leave it like that. I would like to bring it up just a little more, but I think that looks pretty good. So there you have it. Now you know how to restore a picture from this picture here. Oops. Sorry about that. From this picture to where it's all torn and not looking so great, to restoring it to something pretty nice like that. In the next video, we're going to take this picture that we did right here. We're going to take this exact picture and we're going to add some color to it. Well, I hope this video has helped you. Please like this video, please subscribe, and comment if you like. Thanks for watching.